Well, hey guys, how is our family doing? And we just wanted to send you guys our wake up call and
Even
thinking
though we've
about
been
you
wide
all.
awake all day.
But we know what it really means is we are waking up like, geez, hourly into so many things. And that's why we want to talk about relational intelligence. I know you guys have heard about emotional intelligence. There's so many things. So, yeah, let's just go hit it home even deeper, shall we? Relational
In
intelligence.
the new era, that's we have entered a new era, and it's been quite some time, several years now, since we started making this arc into this new place. And we'll ask you guys, how has it been with your relationships?
Yeah.
Oftentimes people go through things and then they'll blame outside each issues, situations. But we've come to realize that, hold on a minute, when we look at it harmonically, when we look at it musicality that we are, then we're like, okay, I just shifted an octave. I just went up something. I just went up somewhere. It doesn't mean that we're any better than anyone else, or anyone is as well. It means that when you go up an octave, you go up a frequency level, then others on the lower one where you're just at, sometimes they can't go there because they're not ready for it. They're not ready to align harmonically. They're not ready to align and unbend their note so that they can move into more of the fullness of Eden that we're all being beckoned to come into. We're all being drawn into it. Whether or not we want to go there is something else. Now, I know it's hard when we're looking at these relationships and then somebody walks away or doesn't want to join you at where you're going, and that it's hard, you guys.
It is, especially when you really love them and you've invested into them and they've invested into you, but at the same time, God has been calling you and moving you forward. And it's the wildest feeling, isn't it? Where you're advancing, but they're kind of choosing to just stay in their patterns. And it can even be where they may even be advancing, but it's in a different way. And we've seen this happen. I know I've seen this happen in one of my close relationships where a split started happening, and it was more on, I don't know, like a vibrational match and alignment where I was becoming more present, and God was telling me, I'm bringing relationships in your life that match that presence, that vulnerability, that relatability, and all the relationships that were performance based, where you have people in your life, as much as they love you, they tend to kind of compete with you, or they compare with you, or they approach you from a place of performance, and they're not willing to get vulnerable with you, right? They stay more surface, and so there begins to be this mismatch. And when we've all said yes to God, we also allow him to rearrange the furniture in our lives, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I've been wrestling with it. John has with relationships in his life, and mine with my friends. And there's like a tearing because they'll kind of go silent on you, and you're like, Lord, what is this? Should I respond? And then they were telling me, they're like, no. And this, you guys have heard me talk about this a lot lately too, is they'll just let them and then let you. And another add-on God was teaching me is not mine. When somebody does something, and you're like, no, that's not mine. I don't need to empath. I don't need to jump in and rescue. I don't need to, So for instance, one of my friendships, um, they're more introverted, and they've been saying they just need time. They're doing inner work and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, no worries, I'll support you in that. But then more time would go by, and then they would check back in and say, oh, I miss you, I love you so much, but I'm still doing more inner work, and I just need my space, me time right now. So I'm like, okay, so I support. So then another month or so goes by too, and then it begins to be a habit of this. And I'm starting to wonder, this is like really interesting, where before they were bringing you in close, But John wanted to add to
Well,
that.
no, it's the issue is too is when they say I need my space, they're not giving you time frames, and so you're left wondering, going, okay, well, you need your space, but you know, I know you don't realize how long that is, but you're going to leave me hanging. You're going to leave me hanging on the vine here. Just wonder, okay, you're going to check in 6 months from now, a month from now.
Like everything's fine,
Yeah, and it's
and
just like, okay, what kind of relationship is this? That's the bigger question.
right.
What is this relationship?
Right. And I was asking God about this, and I'm like, Lord, what do I do with this inside? I'm just feeling, because I've been just giving this space, but one side of you wants to confront it and say, hey, what's happening? What's going on here? But given the individual, it's like if I was to say that, they would go into performance mode and just do what I'm asking them to do, right? It wouldn't be from their heart. It would be out of obligation. So there's a red flag right there too, right? But then, and so I've been waiting to see and allowing their actions to reveal to me and letting that speak to me, because their actions are always speaking louder than words, as we know. And so it's been really really tough, right? Because nobody wants to experience somebody's actions really telling you the truth of we all want them to maybe say something differently, and to actually this all goes back to what we do even in marriage relationships or partner relationships, is to be careful that we don't buy into a fantasy of what we hope it will be, or that fall in love with their potential and not actually be in the real time now present, seeing that their actions are revealing something completely different than our wishful, hopeful thinking. And then the out of balance, where maybe we give, we give opportunities, we make acceptances, we, oh, well, maybe that's just how they are. I just need to accept that. Yeah, there's grace that we can do that, but at what point is a relationship not healthy anymore? Because now it's out of balance. It's out of sync and harmony, and now you're doing all the heavy lifting to try to keep a relationship afloat or friendship. So I was asking the home table, I was talking to Papa God, and I'm like, what is going on here? And they were showing me that this individual is not ready yet to match the level of vulnerability and being present that I am. And so that's why there is a split going on, and that I was just to let go and not settle anymore for relationships that do not want to be in that alignment of honesty, authenticity, realness, really match you at that emotional level, and not be in competition or performance, or where they're not communicative either, where you're left guessing and having to do the extra hard work, right?
Yeah, and really, it comes down to, like we've mentioned a lot, and will continue to, is the difference between harmonious flow, which is soft,
Yeah.
and egoic disillusion, which there's a whole lot of messiness there, which is hard. So anytime you hear anybody say, and we've talked about this, is that this is so hard, it's so difficult. What we're saying is, it is because there's a lot of ego still wrapped up in it. And so anytime the ego is in there, it's rigid, it's difficult, it's challenging, it's hard. But when we're more in harmonious flow together, like for example, your marriage, relational flow, versus, oh, my marriage is so hard. You ever hear somebody say that? I've heard people say that all the time. Marriage is hard.
Yeah, our marriage is hard work.
Well, then there's a lot of ego involved there, right?
Right. You're not bending, you're not preferring too well,
Exactly.
then, are you?
Your
or
note
your
is still
ego doesn't want to die.
Yeah. Your ego, your note is still bent, and it doesn't want to straighten out. And anytime there's resistance there, it will not straighten out until you're ready for that. So when we're looking at these relationships, it is difficult from the standpoint of, okay, there's still a lot of egoic disillusion going on in us, just like everyone.
Yeah.
In different layers, in different octaves, in different harmonious layers of this journey. And so when something gets uncovered, then you're like, oh, okay, that's an old relationship that's dying out, or, this is a new one that's forming, but there's still ego involved. and we're working through that. But man, there's more of a flow to this. See the difference?
Yeah.
The difference is hard going away, and then more of a flow coming into or going to a higher level, because you're both wanting to go there together, even though there may be some challenges involved with that, like with Amy and I, for example. We both want to go there. We said yes. Yep. We believe we said yes together in heaven before we ever stepped into our skin.
That's right.
But we keep saying yes together. Mm-hmm. And so there's still some relational rub there going on, while we're ascending, and because the ego is still wants to hold on in certain areas and it's letting go in certain areas, but we said yes together.
Yeah, and
that's the difference between what Amy's talking about. Like, one does not want to go there because she doesn't want to get vulnerable.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Where John and I, we're both communicators, which is excellent for our marriage, and we both don't want anything to go longer than it should. Like, we don't play the silent treatment. We go in because we know that's usually an assault against our relationship. So we will talk it out. And yes, sometimes the ego will flare. And so we're learning to just let that die down and then talk about it. Or it's such an art, isn't it, you guys? Like, when somebody's really heated and they're trying to ask you to tell them what's going on, it's not going to go anywhere, because it's already in defense mode. You have to wait till things calm down and that. But anyway, but with John and I, yes, we know it's important. You don't let it go long. You work it out, and we both want that.
That's
so
the difference.
That's the difference. We're mirroring each other and coming back together to grow, versus being in such mismatched pairing that you never see eye to eye. So there's a lot of truth about relationships where God truly has ordained berating together. They're divine relationships. And then there's mispairings where people came together out of codependency or out of need or out of their unhealed ways, or they were attractions, opposites attract, and that was usually because they're trying to fill a void, right? It's so crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, the compatibility, that's a whole nother message. But anyway, yeah, back to my friendship there. And so it's real easy when you're a communicator and where your spirit and your soul desires peace. I have wanted to jump in and check in and all this kind of stuff and not accept that the silence is telling me. It's speaking loud and clear. And I want to go in, make sure, is this really what's going on? And sometimes you'll need to do that. But when it keeps happening, there's a greater thing going on here. So I had to just release it to the Lord and make room for him to move that out and allow healthier, friendships to come in. And it was healthy in other ways, right? And sometimes, you guys know, in relationships where it's like, yeah, but they're really unique and we can talk about, deep spiritual things. And so it's, what if I don't have that again, with somebody else, which you will, but it's that little mimic says these things. And I remember even God saying, yes, there's a connection on the spiritual level, but what if it's not healthy in the natural level with how they view you or just even treat you on a natural, practical level as a friend? And they may have a gift. This is the trap, right? They may have a gift, as a seer, or they can see angels, they can see all these incredible things, but the natural, where the rubber hits the road, just being real, talking about normal things.
Yeah, and really where we're going, Amy and I, is exactly what Zach Bush talks about, is embodiment.
Yes.
And when you fully embody your body, fully begin to really embody why we're here. We're here to experience what it's like to love in this separation. We're not separate from God, but the separation in a body, away from our light full light body, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not that we're away from it, but we're encased in a body, and that's the idea of separation. And so we came to experience earth. We came to experience embodiment, And when we do that, you know, the people that don't want to do that, um, they want to be super spiritual in their mental ascension, but they don't want to embody the natural.
Yeah,
Then
it's
it gets kind of
escapism.
weird, right? We all have those weird kind of people that we've met or been around that just keep wanting to check out of their body, and we understand it. Okay, we've been that way several times in our life where we're just like, okay, I don't want to do the natural stuff. I just want to ascend and get out of here. And that's what the rapture is about, right? It's escapism, and that's why it's not true. It's not
Yeah.
reality, because we
Christ is in you.
otherwise, why were we sent here?
Right.
Why were we sent to planet Earth, is to embody the fullness of this journey in our bodies, but yet be very spiritual as well, because that's who we are. You can't be spiritual, in other words, you are spiritual.
Yes, that's good.
So we're spiritual in having an experience in a body through embodiment. And so the more we embody and enjoy
and honor it,
yeah,
like,
the more
wow.
the more fun it'll be.
Yeah, we get to taste flavors. We get to enjoy that pillow. We get to enjoy each other. We get to, there's so many gifts God created. That was part of it, right? He wanted us to tangibly experience love and touch and progression of things. And so, Earth was considered the jewel of the universe, and still is, and we are all waking up and energetically restoring things in so many ways. We're just all going through this rebirth. But so back to relationships. So how's it going for you guys? Have you guys experienced this? I'm sure you have. And especially now more than ever, it's like time is collapsing so much on itself, where there's such an acceleration of all the different components moving and switching around. And so, yeah, we're with you guys if you're experiencing that. And all we can do is just surrender and allow and let go.
Yeah, and then my experience with a friend of mine is, this has been a challenge, because I met this guy, back in the church system days, and Amy and I thought that this church was different. We thought it was outside of the box, and that wasn't institutionalized, and yada yada, right? So it's always about the people. So we started connecting with a few people here and there, and it's not often that I connect with somebody to where, you click in your personalities, you click in business ideas, which I love business, and this person was an entrepreneur, and so am I. And so we were clicking on that. But, and then when it came to spirituality, he was asking questions, and then we were just having some real good dialogue going on. And then, some things went down at that particular church, and
jealousies and
jealousy started happening, and it was like, it was like some stuff started blowing up. Okay. And then when that unraveled, then the lies started happening, to save face. The pastor wanted to save face, and so, we're the outcasts, we're the heretics, we're the ones to lay blame on. And so I'm sure you've been through this. Some of you have been through this as well, and it's not fun. So then this friend of mine started believing the lies, and so then I got the big long text message. This is years ago, but
and he was torn
yeah,
to choose between you and the pastor.
Yeah, torn between being in the ministry and being loyal to this pastor, and then being my friend. So he had to choose the pastor, right? That's typical scenario, happens all the time.
Survival and safety.
Yeah. So then 5 years after we had been booted out, I had run into him again, and it was awkward, during that little conversation. It lasted about 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. And then I just saw him again today. Another 5 years had passed, in this particular town. So, I was going through my emotions and my feelings, just like Amy was talking about with her friend. And I was like, I don't like this. I'm being honest internally with God. I'm having this dialogue, and I'm like, I don't like this. There's no closure.
Right. That's exactly what we were feeling. This is like real time happening right now. So
yeah. So there's no closure, and I'm going, God,
What's
what
our
about
part?
this closure thing? I mean, I see this guy, but it's still awkward. I went to go shake his hand when I just saw him today, and he just wanted to fist bump me. It was just awkward. And then, it lightened up a little bit because you could tell he could remember the good times we've had and all that, but it was still distant and awkward. So then we asked the hum table, we asked Christ, we asked Holy Spirit, we asked
Yeah, Papa God
our team, our
at the hum table.
divine hum table. Anyway, and what came back was something we already know in our hearts, and that was, look, I wanted you to dip in. It wasn't for him more than it was for you, meaning me, to see that, hold on a minute, you've already transcended this. If this person's not willing to go there with you, meaning being vulnerable and go deep and just work things out and talk it out, then it's time to move forward and move on.
Yeah, and how
And
you
that,
felt.
and yeah,
The arrow.
and I felt like there was an arrow that still needed to be pulled out. And many of you are feeling that too. It's like you feel this ache, this dull ache in your gut. It's just unresolved. And sometimes, this is what I was shown just during this whole time, was you have to be okay with it not being, quote, resolved according to the way you want it resolved. And I know that's easier said than done, you guys,
Yeah,
but
that's it.
there's tremendous grace. There's a lot of grace there to say, okay, I'm going to walk you through this. And you're going to come to a point to where you actually smile and laugh when you picture that person instead of feeling that ache or that arrow.
Detached compassion.
Yeah.
It really is. It's detached compassion. And Papa God was sharing with John, because John's like, man, I still feel like I got an arrow there. And Papa said, the arrow's long gone, John. You're just remembering a memory of it. I've already absorbed it. It's not there. And then, John, when he saw this person today, he felt there was nothing, there's no offense, nothing there in his heart. And so, which was really good.
But before that, I did.
But before that, he did, right. And so it's amazing. And then with my friend, I'm like, man, at what point, where's the balance, right? Where you call them on it saying, this isn't okay. I love you, but, what's happening here? This isn't okay. But when you know that they're not completely whole, or they're, you guys know what I mean. Is it gonna bring restoration, or is it gonna harm the relationship further? And the Lord had been giving me an example of somebody that's in the oven, and you want to pull them out, and they're, quote, half baked in the spirit, right? They're not seeing it yet, but you can see it because you're outside of the oven, and it's just not gonna go well, right? If you pull it out of the oven. So I have to release that person, and then down the road, when they finally come out of the oven, if it circles back to you, it will be better that you probably didn't say anything in that time. So like reaching out, trying to say something or bring a correction is like trying to pull them out of the oven ahead of time. It's just not going to go well. It's going to go flat, right? Like a cake that goes flat once you try to pull it out too early. And so they were teaching me just the wisdom of this. And they said, your silence, not responding back, I responded, they haven't responded back. But the silence is already energetically speaking, just like her actions are speaking and communicating something to me. By me not running in and rescuing, it is speaking something to her. So we get in our logic and reason of thinking, well, I've got to say something, I need to jump in, I need to question something, I need to, it's all logic, when there's a lot more going on that's assisting you than you realize into the let them. And so the hum table they gave me an example. They said, you can't be a park bench that they choose to just come and show up whenever they want. You've got to put a lock on the garden gate, and then that allows them to start wondering what they're missing out on the gate after that. It's just, sometimes we can be so loving and so gracious that we just let people, as the t-shirts say, should all over us, but we just kind of let them. And so there's healthy energetic boundaries that are going on right here, and releases. So,
Yeah, and we're taught in religion. I don't know what you guys
yeah,
we're taught, but we're trained to communicate, 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 no matter what, and then come to a point of agreement or some sort of
forgive, forgive,
resolution.
forgive.
That only works in a corporation, right? When you have employees that you can fire if they don't cooperate or they don't want to heed to the policies. So you sit down and say, look, we're going to come to some solution. If not, see ya. But when it comes to these relationships through the church world or just spiritual relationships, we're taught that, okay, just keep after it, keep pestering them to communicate until you resolve. But you know what? That's just not reality, because the more you push
Yeah,
somebody
that's right.
into an awakening that they're not ready for or
Half
don't
baked.
want, then guess what? It causes more resentment because you're pushing them away. And
Yeah,
then guess who looks like the bad guy? You do,
right.
for pushing on them so hard that they're just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not ready for that. I don't want it. But
Yeah,
because the truth of the matter is if either of these individuals that we're talking about wanted resolution,
right.
they would have reached out a long time ago and said, you know what, I'm feeling bad about this. I really want to communicate. But no, there's none of that going on.
Yeah, yeah. And they told me, they said it's this person is not wanting to face it. It is a what do they call it? When they're ghosting you, it is them not wanting to take responsibility for the relationship, and
Ownership.
they're running from facing things. They're what was the word they used? Um, anyway, yeah, it's challenging. So, but we're learning, we're growing all the time, and it's just really healthy boundaries that we're learning, and just healthy self-care all the times. Because again, right, when you grow up in religion, I mean, you're taught to lay your life down, self-sacrificial, and the whole love one another. You end up becoming a doormat. You don't learn healthy boundaries. You don't learn how to listen to your body. And I can still totally love her. I can keep the door open to a degree, but with wisdom and discernment, right? I'm not going to give her the same full access until that is matching. It's a match in the relationship, right? Where she's now willing to um, be vulnerable, willing to go there, willing to be that communicative match. So
Yeah, and we have to be willing to look like the bad guy in this, meaning that, okay, I'm not going to split my energy. I can't wait around. I'm going to live my life and move forward, and I'm going to keep, like Amy said, keep a door open to a degree. But we have to be willing to look like, oh, they don't care. It's kind of like the
yeah,
person that comes up onto the car wreck scene, like we've said before, and there's a calm one, the paramedic, and everybody else is losing their mind, going, oh my gosh, why don't you do something? Why don't you do something, Jesus? He died a long time. This is your best friend. Why don't you raise him from the dead? You could have done it 15 days ago, kind of thing. And you're like, well, hold on a minute. Um, there's a higher intelligence going on here, and it may look like you are conceited, like you're cocky, you are egoic, and all the rest, and they, yep, I believe that about them. I believe the lie, and I just see it's coming true. They just don't want anything to do with me. No, I can't split my energy to sit here and wait around for you to make up your mind when you're going to try to, even want this relationship or not. And as hard as that is, what you're feeling is the pain of the loss of what you once had. But it's not really a loss. Just hear this, you guys. We don't have losses in life. There's transitions and ascensions and octave increase and expansion. All of those terminologies just say that, okay, they're just on a different frequency level. That's it. That's all there is. There's no condemnation here. We're not going to rail against the person because, why don't you talk to me? Why don't you call me? I'm going to chase them down and find out what's really going on here. And no, it's like, if we do that, what we're doing is we're reaching back into a lower realm of a
yes,
lower octave that we just came out of, and we don't want to keep repeating these patterns, do we? Because guess what's going to happen? More of these relationships on that lower frequency will begin to show up that came out of your past, and you're like, uh-oh, here comes the ex, here comes the old girlfriend, here comes the old boyfriend, here comes the pastor that shredded me to pieces, and now I'm starting to come back under that abuse kind of thing, or the old boss, the old jobs that you left. Wow. No, we're moving forward, and then we've got to say, I'm okay with what is.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, you guys? It's challenging. I know I'm saying it's hard. It's
Well, it
challenging
is in that realm.
we feel because we really do care. And sometimes it's that when we've ascended, I don't even want to use the word ascended, when we come more into our remembrance of who we are, our light gets brighter. Yeah. Our mirror, we all are mirrors to each other, and it gets clearer. And sometimes people will pull away because you're so clear that they see themselves and they don't want to see themselves fully yet. And this was something that Papa was sharing to me too about my friend, and just saying that the quiet is by choice, not out of anger, but out of fear of facing what my presence was bringing up in her. She said, they told me, you are a mirror she doesn't want to look into right now, not because you're harsh, but because your life exposes the tension between her spiritual image and her actual emotional ability. So they said she believes disappearing keeps peace, but what she's avoiding is the humility required to name her own retreat. This is not your burden to decode. You've already sent love. You've already made space. Let her absence speak, and let it close what her words have refused to. So, I mean,
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so, so let them, let go, relax, release, all that good stuff.
Yeah, because in the end, when we have to look at this a little differently. You don't have to do anything, but you know what I mean. It's if you want to look at this differently, we're starting to see the benefit in the journey of going, okay, wait a minute, I'm an eternal being here,
Yeah.
and I'm only here a few short years. And so why not meet all these different kinds of people on the frequency levels or the remembrance levels, as Amy said. As I'm remembering who I am, why not meet all kinds of different people and
Hold on
and then
loosely.
hold on loosely, because it's the same kind of principle in a different way when we anchor into a geographical location. Some people anchor into a house and then they go, oh, I don't ever want to leave this house. And they've been in it 20 years and they're like, I can't leave this house. And then the house burns down.
Because they knew
then
for 2 years before that they were supposed to go, and they kept resisting.
Yep. Same goes to relationship. It's I'm gonna, that, like the song.
Gonna
It's
make
like,
it work.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it work, and you're just gonna stand there and watch me burn. Yeah, like the song.
Yeah, stand there and watch.
Yeah,
me
and
burn.
it's like, okay, wait a minute. You had the prompting. The prompting inside said, okay, let go of this person, or let go of this house, this geographical location. I have something more of a brilliant experience, more of a wondrous exploration.
Yeah, you've outgrown it.
You've outgrown that. You've outgrown that survival frequency. Now we're moving into the wonder of your eternal journey, but that you, by the way, agreed to before you ever came here.
It's so true. And we forget because we go through the veil of forgetfulness, because we come into the false matrix that hijacked the earth. And so that's why we forget. That's part of it. It's not God putting this veil of forgetfulness on us. It's the low density. When you drop down out of heaven, down towards earth, and you're going through that veil from the false matrix, it is such low density that it's hard for you to recall and remember. So you come into this forgetfulness. But as we wake back up and we mature and grow, we start remembering, things start coming online. And then the whole mimic system's like, oh my gosh, they are taking their authority back. They're taking their sovereignty back. They're remembering. And now you're ascending at a higher frequency they can't go to. And It's just amazing, isn't it? Everything's so circular. So
Yeah,
yeah. So anyway,
and we're really prone to, and I really, I just sense that somebody's struggling with this. It's like, yeah, but it hurts. It's, yeah, but the person had so many good qualities, so many good
right.
traits,
Is it just me? Maybe I'm the
Yeah, if
one
I
in the
could just,
wrong.
yeah, if I could just explain myself.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you guys, that is a huge one. I don't know how many times I have thought this
Yeah.
in my relationships over the years, is that if I can just explain where they went off listening to the lie because it was a lie. Can I convince you that it wasn't true? What
Right.
you heard about me is just not true. But again, what is that? It's the ego trying to defend itself
Mm-hmm.
and not allowing
The transition.
the transition to happen and not allowing God to go ahead and take care of it. Because after all, we want vengeance now, or we want reconciliation now. We don't want to wait for God to do this because it could be 20 years or not at all in our lifetime.
Yeah.
That's
It's
the difficulty in our ego and
yeah.
our constructs, our conditioning that says, well, what if it never happens? We have to be okay with that.
It's so true. It's being okay with it all. And if we really stop, again, relational intelligence is for us to all slow down, stop and observe what's truly going on inside of us. And why are we having to prove ourselves? We shouldn't have to be
Oh,
over
I know.
proving ourselves or over compensating where it becomes so much work where you are dancing around them on eggshells because you know they've had a really rough past, so you don't want to, you know, contribute to that further. But it's this is just when it becomes like pins and needles and this crazy egg, shell dance. We have to really stop and assess. If you keep trying to convince the person that you are a safe space and you are, you're good, you're healthy,
Now, why
but
should we have to convince them,
but
like you
if
said?
they're not, and you can't convince them because they have their own grit, their own upbringing until they're ready to wake up out of it. Again, we can't help people wake up. We had this conversation last Sunday, didn't we? And so the real growth happens when we stop focusing on them, and we actually turn into awareness into ourselves, really feel what's going on, witness what's going on, and allow ourselves to become better and allow the cooperative components to switch places on the outside of us. Friends move in, friends move out. Relationships shift, soul contracts end, let them go or they're gonna get really rigid and painful and you're gonna shrink yourself. So the moment you start having to shrink yourself, that's usually a time to really wake up and say, okay, soul contract's done. I'm trying to hold on to this longer than I should.
Because after all, you're thinking in your mind, there's no other person that's going to be like this friend or this lover or this faithful or whatever. You're right. No other 7 billion on the planet. Nobody else is going to be like this one.
Yeah.
And are you kidding me? Like, if you really stop and think about that,
Right.
that is so small thinking. It really is.
Yeah, and then ask yourself, what is it you feel like you need from this person? Because
Right.
obviously there's usually a payoff or something that you like or want or feel you need out of this relationship. When the more we move into self-awareness and wholeness and we don't need anything from anybody, but we're wanting to be just a contributor or just be whole and healthy, two whole beings walking together. Wow, what an idea. But it is, again, self-assessment awareness here. What's the attachment? What do I feel like I'm needing or getting from this person? And that'll wake you up out of it pretty quick too. So yeah, it's definitely a fun topic to discuss.
Yeah.
There's so much more we could go on it, but we don't want to keep you guys. So we'll wrap it up. But you know us, we will circle back to these things throughout our different conversations we have. So
All right. Until next time, just
yes,
look at where your note is standing or
right.
bending. And your relationships are being tested right now for a reason. And it's not that they're demonically being attacked, although the mimics can get in there. What's happening is a greater level of frequency and remembrance.
Yeah, and just again, let them let them choose, let them be, and let you choose how you're going to be and how you're going to honor yourself in that relationship as well. And then not mine anymore, right? The divine, compassionate detachment. So,
All right.
all
Well,
right. Love you
we
all.
love you.
Thanks
Thank you so much
again.
for being
And
a part
we'll,
of this community.
yes.
And we just invite you to really give us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, if you want to make any comments, go ahead and drop it right in the community here, and then we'll see you on the next live.
Yes. Thank you for your sponsorship, the Venmo givings, just everything you guys do just helps and blesses us so much and keeps this going. So we love you all. All right. We'll talk soon on the next one.